Going live. You're live. Hi. Hey, what's up, everybody? I don't know who's here. How many people are here? Oh, we got 2 people watching. Sweet, amazing. Hello, nice to meet you. I think it doesn't look like the chat's working right now, but we're still organizing and setting everything up here, and then we're going to get started with a little chat from the creative group. How's it going? Good. We just turned on the live stream.
You want to say hi?
There.
Hi, live stream.
Hi, live stream.
So we're going to get started. Yep. And so it's going to go on the screen.
Yeah.
So we talk about designation. Take over to us. Go for it.
So I have 5 client deadlines lined up. So I don't know how much time we'll have, but we'll just see how much we can get through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Awesome. All right. And the music is off, so I will stand here so you can camera.
Yeah, it is off.
Excellent. Look at that hot light. All right. Hey, everyone. We're going to get started. Hello. Thank you all for coming to our second? Yeah. All mentor program with AIGA. So we really appreciate everybody coming on this fairly sunny Tuesday in April. Really excited for some more warmer weather. Today we're going to go over and learn a little bit more about negotiating tactics, which how many in the room feel super confident about it? I'm going to see no hands raised, right? So we want at the end of this, everybody to at least be like, I could maybe do a little bit more about it, right? Katie, your hand should have gone up, I guess, but yeah, you're speaking. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's the biggest point, right? Like no matter where you are in your career, I think there's always going to be questions and challenges and how do I go about this or ask for this or what's on the table? And it's, can be different for full-time versus freelance and, or contract if you're freelancing for yourself or if you're working on behalf with somebody. So there's a lot of different ways to think about this, and we'll get into as much as we can today. But we're going to start off today. We're going to talk to Chelsea from Designation, who is with WeWork, super awesome for hosting and welcoming us into their new and improved space. It's so beautiful in here. And then we're going to talk with Lois here from the creative group, and she's going to give us a few quick tips from her perspective, and she has some resources for everybody. And then we're going to talk to Katie Lord, who has been a mentor in the past. You've mentored three sessions on freelancing and super popular. And you've done a talk around pricing and negotiation before with the program. So excited for like a reenactment part 2. Excellent. So thank you. I'm going to kick it on over to Chelsea. Thank you so much for hosting us, Chelsea. Yeah. Give her a round of applause. Thank you so much.
You're welcome to come up this way to get over to the side if that's easier. Hi, everybody. I'm Chelsea Lee. I'm a creative director and lead instructor at Designation, which is a UI and UX boot camp. We are currently here in Chicago. We just opened a new location in New York. We merged with Flatiron School, which you'll see some of that branding over here. They are a software engineer and data science boot camp. Just show of hands who's familiar with the term boot camp. Is that foreign? Right, like pretty much everybody. But yeah, so we are running Designation specifically I can talk to because I am a designer. So I run the in-person or one of the tracks of in-person phase. It's a 6-month program, 3 months online and 3 months in person. And so I'm one of the instructors for that. And we are leading teams of UI and UX designers through real client projects. So while they're in my hands in person, they have 2 different client projects that they work on in a collaborative team setting. And the final phase of that is a career phase where we prepare everybody for their careers and help them work on creating a portfolio and how they are going to present their work in interviews and negotiation. We do talk about that, so maybe I'll learn some new tips for my classes. So I'm just happy to have you all here. If you have any questions about Designation or WeWork, please feel free to ask me. Housekeeping note, the bathroom, you can either go out the way you came in or all the way down this long hall and somebody will help you. Kara?
I would say go
Yeah, so you probably want to go all the way down this long hall, take a 2 rights, I believe, and you'll see the bathrooms over there. Well, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I know a few faces in here. So my name is Lois. I'm a senior recruiter for digital media for the Creative Group. The Creative Group is a creative staffing agency. Who all here has heard of staffing agencies or knows what they do, or maybe heard bad things about them? That happens. Cool. Okay. So our job is to kind of play matchmaker between candidates, whether they be freelance or people who are looking for full-time jobs, and then clients and companies. And we work with pretty much anyone you can think of in Chicago who's hiring, we'll work with. But my job as a recruiter is to find the talent and then hopefully match them up with the clients and the companies. Recruiters get a bad rap, so I'm here to hopefully change a little bit of that, because I definitely want to be a resource for you all. We can't place everyone that we meet, but we do try to be resources for you in many different ways. I've met some of you through doing like portfolio workshops. We do resume reviews. We do stuff like this with AIGA. So that's who I am and what I do. I've been with the Creative Group for about 2.5 years. When I say digital media, it means that I focus on web developers, web designers, UX designers, digital marketing, so anything digital related, but I have worked with traditional print, traditional marketing candidates as well in my career. So I didn't want to take up too much time because I know Katie's going to cover so much, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some rules of thumb around negotiating pricing, differences being between salary pricing and then like project-based, or if you're a freelancer coming in. So one of the, I would say, rules of thumb in general salary is you come in with a number. So you have something in mind, versus sometimes with contract work, actually I'd say 99% of the time with contract work, you ask, what is your budget for this project? Because we even do that on our end in the Creative Group. We say, okay, cool, this is awesome. You want a mid-level UX designer, 5 to 7 years agency experience. What's your budget for this project? And if they're like, I don't know, 20 an hour, cool, we know we can't, that's not gonna fly. That's not really the market pricing. And then we can educate them or say, you know what, we're gonna have to walk away from this job. But it's always good to ask that open-ended question, because say they throw out a number that's kind of close to what you would charge and you're like, well, this is a really cool opportunity, it's with an agency, that's fine. I'll adjust in my head, versus you throwing out your rate and then they have sticker shock, or they think, oh, sweet, they way underpriced themselves, I'm getting a good deal. So I always like to ask with project work, what's your budget for this project? Conversely, with salary, if you're going into a job or a salary negotiations, you want to go in with a number, having done your research. And we'll talk a little bit tonight about research. The Creative Group has a salary guide. I'm going to pass around a sign-up sheet because we can email you the digital version of this so that we're saving trees. But the salary guide talks about pretty much every role in the creative and marketing field, adjusted for the markets, because a UX designer in New York City is going to make a different salary or a different hourly rate than a UX designer in Idaho. So I'll send this around after I chat with you about, you can just put your email address, your name, and we'll send that to you. But do your homework before you go into a salary negotiation. And what I tell all my people is figure out what your bare minimum is, have it in mind, ask for above that. and it'll vary whether you ask for 5K more, 7K more, 10K more, but know that employers expect you to negotiate. You're not being greedy. You're not trying to like get more money. You're just saying, okay, here's my minimum. I'm going to go up a bit, and then I'm going to have some wiggle room to negotiate with. And then I'll just add a small tack onto that, is that if you are willing to go below your bare minimum, figure out ahead of time, okay, what would I be okay with if they couldn't give me my bare minimum? So maybe they have a really great benefits package. Maybe they're going to pay for some of my schooling. Maybe they're going to do X, Y, Z, but have some things in mind so that if they come below your bare minimum, you can say, okay, well, here's what I would need in exchange. Because what you don't want to do is unhealthy compromise. I see a lot of my candidates be like, well, my absolute bare minimum is 62. I can't live below 62,000 a year. And then they get talked down to 53 because they didn't have that number in mind before they went in, or an idea of like what they would be willing to flex on. It's like, okay, I'll take 60K, but maybe they have a transit program and, super cool college reimbursement benefits. Does that kind of make sense, having that going in? Yeah. And then just being objective. It's not emotional. It's not about you wanting more money. It's not a greedy power grab. I have used this before when I have negotiated a raise, is to say, based on what my value is on the market, I need X. And that's, of course, where the research will come in, but just know what you're worth. We live in a capitalist structure, for better or for worse, but you can be conscious about what your worth is in that capitalist structure to say, here's what I am worth, and this is what I can't compromise on. Any questions on those kind of two approaches, saying what's your budget versus this is what I need to have? Yeah.
When you're placing, you also place time deliverables.
We do.
So what is the difference in negotiation strategies?
So with the recruiting agency, it's a little different when we're placing full-time roles. We will sometimes ask like what salary, because they're usually coming to us before we go find the candidates. But on your end, if you're going into, I would say, an interview or applying for a job, usually they're not posting salary. They're not telling you ahead of time. So you want to be like, okay, here's what I know I can't go without. So it's a little different for staffing agencies, but for freelance, I think it applies for both staffing agencies and just if you're representing on your own to say, what's your budget for this project? If you are a freelancer who uses a staffing agency, hopefully you'll have a good recruiter who will have your best interests in mind and tell you like, this is what your market value is. You know, I've had people come to me and say like, I have to charge $100 an hour even through a staffing agency. And I'm just honest with them. I'm like, that's not realistic for me. We don't often see that. So I probably can't bring you any work. And then it's up to them. If they want to say, okay, I'll flex down to 70 or nope, I can't do anything less than 100. Thanks. Nice to meet you. Have a great life. You know, it just, so I think people get very emotional around money. And so they think, okay, I have to have this or else I'm not worth anything. Or, you know, recruiters will try and be like, no, we'll figure it out. But I think we have to be honest, educating ourselves and other people. Yeah, I mean, those are kind of the two big things I want to say is having a number in mind, asking project budget. There is a couple things I want to mention too with freelance work where you might compromise. So with salaried work, you might compromise on things like, okay, benefits package, or I'm willing to compromise a couple K on my salary to get these benefits from them. It might be about the company and the role and the location. I'd say with freelance work, those things come into play even more. So say the hourly rate is $10 to $15 an hour less than what you might normally make, but it's with a great agency that's walking distance from your house, might be worth it for 1 month. You know, you're not committing to it forever. So I think the leniency you can have there is a little bit more malleable. Just kind of figure out what your goals are. So it's like, I want to build my resume. I want to have great clients. I want to have great work. I'm willing to take a hit for the next couple months for this project because you're not marrying that company necessarily. And then lastly, I want to just make a plug because ladies I have statistics up the wazoo, but women do not ask for pay raises and we do not go in negotiating our salary. So I just want to make a little plug. I read a great article. They had a quote that says, when there's no explicit statement that wages are negotiable, females are more likely than males to signal their willingness to work for a lower rate. So I'm always preaching this to my lady candidates. Know your worth and don't do what I often hear a lot of my candidates say, well, this is what I want, but I mean, I'm flexible. This is what I want, period. Put your phone on mute if you have to. You know, it's really, really tough. And I've been in that position before too, where I sit across from a hiring manager. They hand me a Post-it to say, here's what we're offering for this. And I go, okay, because I'm just so happy to get the job and I don't want to seem ungrateful. And there's a lot of reasons that women ask for less than men in price or raise negotiations or in salary negotiations, but which I won't get into tonight, but just know that statistically women are asking for less. So whatever you need to do to kind of bolster your confidence, put your phone on mute, send it in an email if you have to know this is what I'm worth and I will walk away from this job if I don't get less than what I'm worth. Yeah.
Negotiating the email, is that something that is frowned upon? Is it
Yeah.
acceptable these days?
Yeah, I usually encourage it more often than not because it's on paper. There are receipts, sister, show me the receipts. You know, there is a paper trail. So I actually encourage I give this advice to my candidates who are negotiating salaries, even not related to us. I'll have candidates call me and be like, I'm balancing these two roles. I didn't even get those roles for them, but I tell them, get it on paper, email them, say, hey, I hear your offer. I appreciate it. And then they might call you with an offer and then respond via email. You offered me $52K, I would like $55K, and I need transit benefits. And you do it that way if you have to. Yeah. Yeah.
What are the differences when you are giving a set number and giving a range?
Oh, I see. Like for salary, you mean? If you're like, oh, I'm fine with between 60 and 70. Yeah, I would say That's so on the staffing agency side, we're like, cool, we want to get you more. Giving a recruiter a range, I think, is probably more preferable because the more money that you get, we get essentially. So we're going to try and get you more money. Now, sometimes with employers, if you say, oh, anywhere between 60 to 70, they'll be like, cool, 60, we just saved 10K on our budget. So it's ideal if you can say your bare minimum is 60, shoot for 70. And then if you work your way down to 60, it's okay. Yeah. Or like find that middle ground. Because employers are looking to save money on their budget. I mean, it just is what it is. So I usually ask, or I tell my candidates to pick what your lower number is and go higher than that.
I'm at my agency through the credit group, so kudos to you.
Not through me, but I will take the praise. I'll take the credit.
Before you're in there, but one of the things that is a benefit of working with a recruiter, at least my experience, is that I'm not the one negotiating that.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
100%. Yeah. So because clients or companies are paying us a fee to find them people or a fee, and again, I should emphasize, different than headhunters, staffing agencies are free to the candidate because the company is paying us something to get the candidate. Headhunters, you pay them to go find you a job. So because that company is paying us money, we don't want the candidate and the client to be talking about money because we don't want our fees out there all willy-nilly. So we do all the negotiating. So essentially, I have a candidate right now who's been on contract. They want to convert her. They're like, what salary do you want? She's like, actually, you can have that discussion with my recruiter. And it's off the hook. So then they called me and I knew her range was, she wanted 70K, but I said, well, what are you budgeted for this role? She was like, oh, between 85 and 100. It's like, cool, she'll take 85, so, I mean, great. Because, so on that regard, with that regards, because I'm her recruiter and because I know that they're going to be paying us a fee, I'm asking them, what are you budgeted for this role? So it is different. I think that spoke to your question. You're asking about salary. Can you use that tactic? We do, because we know that they have to pay us a fee on top of that. But yeah, you never talk about your fees when you're on a assignment through an agency. So we do all that hard work.
But also,
Yeah.
I think one of the benefits is that if you were me, you're preparing me how to, kind of like an actress going for a role, you kind of
Right.
how to, what do you say, nuances that employer
Sure.
would have.
Yeah, because sometimes, again, I try to always keep my candidates' best interests at heart, but maybe the role is only budgeted. I say they're only budgeted to pay you 60K. I know you wanted 65. This company is great. You get to work remotely. They're going to give you like paid parental leave. It might be worth it. Not to push you into something, but to show you or be a sounding board, like this might be worth taking that 5K hit. But yeah, we've had to have tough negotiating talks with clients where they are like, oh, we're an association. We don't want to pay that much. And it's like, well, I know how much you pay other people because it's public online. So this is what we want for our candidates. And if not, what else can you offer them? So we do that work.
There's also that element of what cost it takes to be individual to hire and sort through all these things.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
What are some good resources to find out like how much they're having that like Glassdoor?
Yeah, Glassdoor. I mean, I would say too, like doing research on the market rate, which again, I'll pass everything for a salary guide. Sometimes on Career Builder has these really great statistics that you can access. There's like a separate like statistics page where they tell you kind of what the people in your area are making on average. That's really great. Sometimes with Google, it gets a little out of hand. I've had, baby junior UX people who just graduated telling me like, I'm thinking 80K. I'm like, nope. So they can give you a wrong impression. So asking people, who are working in the industry, asking a recruiter in terms of what they're paying other people. I mean, yeah, Glassdoor usually is where you can see average salaries for that company. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to share something else, just going off of that LinkedIn, if you have the premium account, which I know everybody has to pay for, you can do a 1-month free trial on there, which I totally did.
Yes.
And you can see the information for a specific company, like if you have companies specifically in mind. They give a lot of really good details, how
Yes.
often they recently hired people and in what departments, and then what the whole company view of like the percentage with which they hired, graphic design people or web
Yep.
people, or, it's all one group. Right?
Yes.
So if
That's
you can
great.
just do a free trial for a month, get yourself out of it for that year.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. I forgot about that. Thank you, because we use that resource as well. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? I know I didn't cover everything, but the high points. I'm going to be here the whole time because I think I'm going to help Katie with some of her role plays and stuff. I'm going to pass around this, guys, put name, email, address. We will email you the downloadable version of the salary guide because they give you adjustments based on your city, which is the most helpful thing. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm not gonna throw you out, but give it up for Katie Lord.
Hello. Hello. I'm live streaming on my computer right now, so we have a couple of viewers, so I just wanted to wave hi. Thanks for coming tonight. This is exciting. There's so many people here. I also see a couple familiar faces from when I was in, well, you guys already know, you already said I led the mentorship program a while back. I did 3 sessions in a row, and then I had to stop being a mentor for a while because I had a baby. So maybe I'll come back one day, but or come back as a mentee for one of your other groups. But it's such a great program that you guys have, and thanks to Jen and Chelsea for organizing this, and Designation for hosting. This is such a great space. So a little bit about myself. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to. I wonder if there's a place where I could share my screen on here. Well, there used to be. Well, hopefully you can see. Oh, it's backwards now. Okay, well, there used to be a spot where I could share my screen. Sorry, guys, you'll just have to listen to my lecture. Moving over to here. Okay, so I want you guys to stop being afraid of what could go wrong and get excited about what could go right. This is a huge piece of my life as a freelancer, and I think it's so applicable, even just whether you're doing if you're leaping from one job to a new job, starting a new job, if you want to go out and make the jump and be a freelancer, if you're trying to onboard that new client, like there's so many things that this is relatable to. So my husband and I, when we first met, we went skiing. And I used to, I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I used to go skiing on little hills in the UP, you know, where it takes maybe 5 minutes to get to the bottom of it. And then he's just like, no, hold on. We're going to Vail. We're going to Colorado in the mountains. And so we arrive there, we put on our ski gear, I go up the mountain and I get off the gondola, and this is the first thing that I see. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. I was so mad at him. And I realized right then and there, I had 2 choices. I could either try and go down the hill, or I could just, call the ski people, and they could take me down in a snowmobile like they do for the people who are injured and stuff. Super scary either way. But what I realized, I had I grew up skiing on a hill, and granted this is a new area, much bigger hill. But I still had the basics of skiing and understanding how to move and manage everything, and I decided to go for it. And so I took the plunge, and I made it down to the hill, or down to the bottom, and it was okay. But it was hard, and I fell a lot, and it was challenging. But you know what? When I got on the bottom, I got back on the gondola to go on it again, to go up and try again, right? And that is just, in the world of freelance, especially when we're onboarding new clients, finish one project, onboard them, start a new one, right? Over and over and over and over again. Oops. This is my dog. Her name is Umka. She's in all my presentations, so I have to include her. She's 3 years old now. So I'm going to go over a couple different things for you. I know we're focused on negotiation strategies, so I want to kind of buzz through some of the freelancing tips and tricks that I have up my sleeve from the past workshops and sessions that I've led, and a little bit more about myself. So I'm also a teacher at Flashpoint, or Columbia Flashpoint School here in Chicago. I actually got recruited from this program with one of the other mentors, Kieran Delaney. And so I'm finishing up my first year teaching with them, and I teach digital marketing, UX design, website design or website development, and then I also do my own things. I've been working for myself since 2015, and it has been an interesting road. I've learned a lot, and I've failed a lot, and I've also had a lot of really great successes, and I want you guys to learn from my successes and also my failures. So that's the whole reason why I'm here tonight. Is to help you guys as designers navigate this crazy world of design, because it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I'm getting some friction
Oh, sorry.
Just your hair. Put it like on your white lapel.
Is this okay?
Do a little bit. That's it.
Everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Drew in the back of the room. He's filming us tonight. He's
sorry, I'm late, folks. I came right out of my shift.
No, that's okay. So he's our professional videographer for the night. Okay, so we're gonna go over some freelancing tools. I'm going to show you how I built my company. I ended up coming up with my own business model and taking money completely out of the equation by developing a productized service process. I'm going to show you guys that process. I hope you find value in it. And then also go over some sales stuff. So how to find your blue chip clients. Because I know tonight in the art of negotiation, how do we know what we're going to sell and negotiate for if we don't know what we're going to charge? So we're going to take a little bit to get there. Okay. And then we're going to go into client role plays. But I used to be blonde. You can check me out online. So kittylord.com. Kitty Lord Inc. This is my cell number if you feel so inclined to give me a call sometime and chat. First thing first, I learned a new networking tip that I want to share with everyone, right? Because if you are pitching yourself, you have to be able to sell yourself. And so I want everyone to write down this formula here on the left. If you can't read it in the back, I'll read it to you. So this is called SNAP. Smart networking at an accelerated pace. I actually just attended a workshop a couple weekends ago by another agency called Simply Be, and I attended their personal branding masterclass. And so this is how I found out about this thing. But it's actually, and I put a link down here too. So I can't take credit for it. Again, I think that this is something that's incredibly valuable to you, because before I found this, my pitch used to be something along the lines of, I'm Katie Lord, I do website design, I do UX design, I do graphic design, I can make your things look great. I've worked with 30 different startups here in Chicago. How can I help you guys? You know, I can help make ideas happen. Versus now, if you follow this formula, if you follow, as a result of my work, and you respond to that, you write this down. So this is like your formula to coming up with your pitch. So as a result of my work, my clients experience what, and then I work with who, and then who are blank, and then you end with a question. So now, when I pitch myself, this is what I say. I'm Katie Lord, founder of Katie Lord Inc., and I've helped companies achieve over $70 million in funding. As a result of my work, my clients experience accelerated growth simply by effectively communicating their message. I work with executives and marketers who want to make an impact, and I'm looking for companies who want to grow, increase their sales, and make change happen. Do you know someone who wants to accelerate your growth? I'm missing the last sentence on me, right? Doesn't that sound so much more impactful? Who doesn't want to raise their hand right now? Right, so this is putting the results up front, putting the results first. Everyone here is a designer. How are you differentiating yourself from everyone else here in this room? It's through the customer experience and working with you, right? What do they get that's unique to you from working with you? Yeah.
I have a question about that. So like in your case, you've worked with companies before, so you can show KPIs.
Yeah.
How do you do that as somebody who's like new to freelancing or just starting out? How do you apply that value?
So trust me, you have value. It's more along the lines of, so you can keep it more generic. It could be something like, I help clients achieve beautiful designs. I create beautiful experiences, right? So what are the results that you can give to your clients? People are results oriented. So in working with you, they're not just hiring you for, what design do you do?
I do
UX design? Yeah, web work. So they're not just hiring you to do UX design. They're hiring you to do what? What is their business goal for hiring you? Okay, right? So you're pitching yourself as freelancers or independent contractors or whomever, pitching yourself to businesses, to companies. They're talking to you because they have a business goal in mind. You need to make sure that you're able to meet that goal.
So it doesn't have to be monetary.
It doesn't have to be monetary. No, not at all. No. Cool. All right, moving on. Got a lot to get through. Okay, so project management. I figured we're just going to start off here. So freelancing tools. Great, you're hired. You're going to design my brochure. Now what? Right? And then it chirps, and then there's like, it's up to you to respond to the client with your process. So come up with a project management process. have an onboarding or create a project management process. Think of what to do when things go off track. Think of what you do for client communication. Are you meeting on Google Hangouts? Some of my clients prefer to use Zoom. Some of them actually still use GoToMeeting, if you're familiar with that one as well. So figure out how you're going to be communicating. And then how are you managing your tasks? So do you have a project management tool? A project management tool is awesome because you can just invite your clients to it and you can be like, hey, look, this is where I'm at on your project. It's all automated. It's all right here. So this is mine here on the right. So before we start your project, you'll be assigned a number of points, and we'll get into points. A number of points based on your expectations for timeline and deliverables. The points are based on how you want to prioritize your tasks. We hold ourselves accountable for meeting those goals from kickoff to completion. After you purchase your points, we create a project timeline based on your goals, and we provide access to your project portal so that you can track our progress every step of the way, including review meetings and ongoing communication. So as a partner, you'll have once a week Scrum call, full access to your working files, and then you can view your task list anytime. Okay, so for meetings, prepare impactful questions. And some of the most brilliant creative directors that I've ever worked with, they're intuitively able to come up with so many questions that are impactful that it just oozes out of them. It's so easy for them. So example of an impactful question: which one of your colleagues would survive a zombie attack? Right? Hilarious. But the reason for this is because you're trying to get information from your client. So it's not like pulling teeth with yes or no questions, right? You want to be able to frame your questions in a way to make an impact, to get them to respond with complete sentences, to make them sit back in their chairs and go like, I didn't think about that, right? Impactful questions. So whenever you run a meeting, have a couple of these in your pocket, memorize them, and have them prepared for your meeting. Meeting flow. I learned a long time ago that if you're meeting with a client in person, to always bring candy or a snack or something. So whenever I go meet a new client, I'll like stop over at Pete's and grab a couple cookies or whatnot, because who doesn't like to snack, right? And they remember you too. And they're like, if they meet you again, they're like, oh, hey, where's the taffy? You brought the taffy last time. And then run your meetings with an agenda. So I showed you guys at the beginning of this presentation, it's just a simple bullet point list of everything that we're going to be talking about today. It just helps keep the meeting on track. And then add your intent. So the purpose of this meeting is to what? The purpose of this meeting is to have round 2 of our design review and to finalize the design and prepare it for print. Right. Round 2 is to finalize the questions that we had over this from our last meeting for the UX, right? So have an intentional goal for the meeting. And then tell them how you're going to do it, and then close the meeting. So pro tips: schedule your meeting for 1 hour and then end 10 minutes early, because then your client has an extra 10 minutes on their calendar. You're not going overtime, and then you have more time to spare if you need to. So plan for plan for your meeting to be just 50 minutes long. And then follow up with a thank you note. And then before the meeting ends, thank you for attending the design review meeting today. We have one more round of edits in this project. When are you available to meet for this next? And then immediately schedule that after, as soon as you end the meeting, right? Yeah.
So for that as well, do you get like sign off, or do you send a recap meeting to?
It depends on the meeting. For UX projects, yeah, I would like send a bullet point list of things. But if we're talking about like design review, like for a brochure, then I'm like, I have your notes. I'll just send you the final version. Yeah, it depends on the meeting and how you want to manage that. Okay, freelancing tools. I think by this point, this is kind of redundant, but so invoicing, I use QuickBooks. I've used it for years. It's fine. It works great. No issues with me. If you want to, you can accept credit card payments online, although I make my clients pay via ACH because I don't want to pay the 3% transaction fee on credit cards. Now I ask them up front if they want to use credit card, like if they're collecting air miles or whatever, and then I would add that on to their invoice as a line item. Anco, I think, was actually just bought by Freelancer or whatnot. So some of these are free if you only are using like 1 or 2 invoices at a time. And then legal. So I say, because I actually took this out of my notes because I want to make sure we have enough time to go over the client role plays. Legal and incorporating. And the reasons why you should incorporate. Does anyone have an EIN? You're the only one in here that has an EIN? Okay, so here's the reason why you should have an EIN. So when I say employer identification number, aka incorporating, filing the business paperwork to become an LLC or an S Corp, L Corp, whatever you are. The reason why, say UX client, you landed a big project, say $30,000 contract. For whatever reason, it blows up. All right, you are working as an independent contractor using your social security number, your identification number. And what that means now, if the client decides to sue you, all of your personal assets are liable to be sued. Versus if you're using an EIN, they're only able to sue the business, right? So night and day in my mind, it's easy enough to file this paperwork. I did mine in like a day. You don't have to, it's not an incredible amount of money. If you wanna, there's automated services that can do this for you online. I did mine in person if you have time and availability to do this. So I did mine in person. I filled out the paperwork. I turned it in. I think it's in the Daily Center on the second or third floor. And I had my EIN in like the next day. So it's easy enough for you guys to do for yourself. You can do it online too, but it's really just this extra layer of protection, especially if you're gonna make this your full-time thing. It's a must. Okay. Productizing services. Do you guys understand what I mean by productized services? So productized services are services that are packaged, sold, and delivered, just like products, just like a cereal box. You're to pull this off the shelf, it's got a package. So can you productize bespoke services? So can you productize services like graphic designers, logo design, website design, UX design? And the answer to that is yes. I'm going to show you how right now. So you need to have a clear product offering, delivery, and follow through. And what this essentially is just putting everything in a standardized process. So the first step of this, and I did this for my mentees when they were in my freelance session, and then I've actually turned this into an online course called Point Book. So the first step in this whole process, and this is actually, it's a lot of work to get this done, but once you go through these steps and figure this out for yourself, it's worth it. So define your services. So list all of your services, write detailed description and approximate time to complete. Because I assume most people are working on hourly rate at this point, or you've at least worked on hourly rate at some point. So what I want you to do is just brain dump everything. What can you do for me that I can pay you for? Your list of services. We're not going to get super minuscule here, but I want you to list everything in a spreadsheet. And you're going to list the approximate time for each of those services to complete. Right? Because the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to define what a point means to both your business internally and externally. So in my website, I have all my pricing online. So my website started at $10,000. That means 100 points to my clients. And they can purchase their points up front, or we can do 50% up front or 50% on back. But what I'm able to do with using points instead of hourly rate or project cost is the client says, hey, Katie, can you actually add this one extra page to the website? And I'm like, sure, that's okay. So we originally agreed in our project for 100 points that you're going to get 8 pages for your website. Do you approve another 10 points? Sure, no problem. So if you're scared of talking about money or hourly rate or project cost, I took all of this stuff out of the equation. So define what a point means to you both internally and externally. So I say that because internally, you still have to be able to track what a point means. So it's going to mean 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you want to define for it internally. And then externally, it's also based on Agile. Externally, the client is going to know it as effort. So the client is going to say, okay, so we have 10 tasks, and I see it's weighted most heavily. We're putting the most effort, say, on the website development, which makes sense, right? It's the most technical, and it takes the most time. So that makes sense that we're going to focus most of our effort or of these points on that task. So you set your points, and then you're going to do service mapping. So mix and match your services together to generate packages, and define which can be performed together, standalone, or sequenced. So you have this master list of services. Now let's start grouping them together. which of them can be standalone, which of them can be sequenced, which of them makes sense that they should be a package together, right? So if you want to have a big branding and identity package, you might have logo design, brand guidelines, color defining, whatever you want included in this whole package. And then you're going to allocate points, assign each service or package a number of points. So if you do the translation of what a point means for you, so if you say 1 point equals 1 hour, technically that's what your hourly rate would be. And then you're going to total. So if you're combining 4 services, and each of those 4 services takes you 20 hours, so you're going to have 80 hours total. So that package should be 80 points, right? And then you're going to generate your task list. So now you have your packages, you have your list of services that go inside each package. Now you're going to generate your task list. And this is where you're going to start to automate the process. Because every time you sell this package, you're like, this is great. Here's my task list. All I have to do is open this file up again, whether you're doing it in Google Sheets or your project management tool. All you have to do is just open up your templated task list. And then define your terms. So this can be, I say this can be whatever you want. Yeah, so I say over here, so terms and conditions. So it can be 15 days, it can be 30 days. You can say you charge up front, you can say you charge 50% up front or 50% on back. So you set the terms because they're choosing to work with you. You're the boss, right? So once you have all of these beautiful packages created and you have a set, or you have your price point, you have your number of points for each of these packages, then you can turn this into a proposal. So a proposal has these components. So it has your cover page, it has about your company, about you, your samples of work, or if you wanted to list a couple case studies, and then how it works. Because if you are choosing to use points, it give a little explainer for like what points mean to them. So points mean effort and how you're going to weight the task lists for your project based on their priorities. And then you're going to have, I just have 1 page per package. So I have 5 packages, so I have 5 pages. This is all just in a Google spreadsheet that I have. And on each page is just a bullet point list of all of the tasks for each of those packages. So, and then the terms and conditions. So when I get a call from a client and they're like, Katie, can you do branding and identity for me? Sure, no problem. Let me send you a proposal. It takes me 10 minutes to send a proposal because I open up this document, I edit the client information, and I include the 1 package for branding and identity, save it as a PDF and email it to them. No problem. Problem solved. Productized services. Okay, questions on that briefly. It's kind of a big topic, so I did the best I can in 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
I like the point idea. Have you ever had clients say, like, why are you using points? Can you just point the cost?
Yeah, the cost is, so whatever.
Do you actually say to them, like, do you tell them you're using points, or you just tell them, like,
no, I tell them I'm using points, and I explain to them. So what I say to the clients is, so I use a point system. So what that means for you is your project is assigned a number of points. And then once we're done with our project, you can choose to end or purchase another round of points to continue the project or keep the effort going. But for example, if your project is 15 points, we're going to have tasks 1, 2, and 3, and they're all going to be assigned 5 points. If you say to me that you want to focus more on task 1, I say no problem. I'm going to take some points from task 2 and assign them to task 1, right? So it's flexible. It's called flexible scope. Because I was also running into issues in working as a freelancer. Well, so even just for having a scope of work and an agreement with clients, if you get into scope creep, the next thing, how do you handle scope creep with a client? Okay, well, let's go back and reference our terms and agreement. Well, now you have to renegotiate your agreement and start all over, and it put this big block in the middle of the project, and nobody likes doing any of that, right? So I wanted to get rid of all of that, take that all out of the equation.
So you buffer it.
Yes, so on the buffer note, I say points do have a level of flexibility in line with the flexible scope. So if I accidentally submit a PDF to a client and I miss the last edit, that's on me. And and the client points it out. I'm like, sure, no problem. Like, no extra points. I'm going to fix this right away and send it right back to you. We're all human, right? But I say that each point should have like a percentage of flexibility. So like 15, 20% flexibility. So 15, 20 minutes flexibility for, so you can either go 15 minutes under the hour or 15 minutes over the hour for however you're tracking it. Yeah.
Do you ever refund points? Does that
So-
have downsides?
So that's we're going to get into some of that for the client role play. So do you ever refund points? So I hired you to do a project for me, and we finished the project, but I'm not going to pay you for all of it, right? And so I guess is the question. Do you never use all of the points? Is that the question?
Yeah.
So no, you always use all of the points. Yeah, you always use all of the points because that's established in the kickoff call, where all of the points are going to be used or allocated in the beginning of the project when you go over your task list. So you're already assigning all the points. Yeah. I think the question is, have I ever refunded a client after they paid me? No. Well, no, I haven't. Okay. All right. So, believe it or not, there are actually lots of different types of freelancers. So, let me use the little pointer thing. All right. So, I have a hunch that a lot of you, and I get stuck in this too, are down here in the project side of things. So, you're doing, I don't know, brochure, production work, logo design, presentations. You work for, I don't know, say $500, $1,000, maybe even $2,000 or $3,000 project engagements, and then that's it. You don't get them to come back. They're not reoccurring. You spend the time and effort that you spent to onboard this client was huge, presumably, right? So this is the most risky place to be. And then you can get into reoccurring projects, where I think everybody should be between these two, reoccurring consultant. Because you get to put these clients on retainer, you get small projects recurring on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, right? So you get these small projects, take them up the value chain, turn them into reoccurring clients. I really enjoyed working with you on our first project. I think I could add a lot of value to you if we were to turn this into a monthly thing. What do you think about going on a $2,000 retainer? You never know what you get unless you ask. How many people have asked for another project as soon as they've ended their first one? And what was the response? You what?
I still have that.
You still have that client, so that works. Yes, great. There's a couple other hands. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. So have a process, set these processes up in place. Have an onboarding process and an offboarding process for all of the clients that you have. A great way, if you're trying to drum up new business right now, a great way to do that, go back and email all of your old clients. Hey, I really enjoyed working with you. By the way, this is what I'm up to. Any chance you want to meet up for coffee? Boom, new business. So I put this on a level of risk. So 1 being low risk, 10 being high risk. So this is risky because if you spend most of your time down here trying to work on the project by project base where you're killing yourself over these $500, $1,000 projects, that's not a way to live. The time that it takes you to onboard this project and then actually complete it and then offboard them, what is your actual hourly rate if you were to do all the math, right? What are you paying yourself? So the idea is I want you guys to start to either turn your projects into reoccurring clients or stop saying no to projects. Because I know this is hard because rent is due, mortgages are hard, I understand. But the challenge here is what you're doing is you're opening yourself up for the opportunity to market yourself, to attend networking events, to promote yourself, to refresh your portfolio, to write a new case study in the time that you are spending on this project stuff, the little bit of money that you're getting from that, when you could be working towards getting higher paying clients. Yeah.
I had a question about recurring clients in in scenarios where you're juggling multiple recurring clients
Mhm.
and trying to manage time commitments for them, especially if people are requesting like on-site work,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a way to kind of negotiate how to maintain that client without just being like, I'm
Mhm.
too busy because I have clients paying me better right now, or like, I'm too busy because I like already.
So let's talk about on-site work quick. What percentage of your time is on-site?
Right now, most of it.
Okay, and how long have you been doing this?
A couple of months now between different sets of recurring clients.
So how much of one client is on-site? Like, are you working like 60% of your time on-site with one client?
I do, like, at a time, it could be a 3-month
Uh-huh.
Hourly contract to like 37 hours a week
Yeah.
with an on-site
Yeah.
client, and then going and doing that with like a different client
Got
on
it.
another set of months.
Okay, so you're almost I would say like consultant. So these are larger retainer, larger contracts that you go and work with them. Are you with like a recruiting agency at all, or are you finding these half and half? Okay, so I don't work on site because there are, and I was just chit-chatting with you guys on this. So to work on site, so there's certain things that basically they're treating you as an employee without giving you the benefits of an employee when you are obligated to work on site for essentially a full-time job, is what's happening. And so there's ways you can fix that. You can say, hey, thank you, I appreciate the project, but what I can offer you is we can do a bi-weekly meeting on site, and then we can have daily scrums, right? Because there's certain times when you can collect unemployment and not collect unemployment, and the things that the state looks at is, are you obligated to work on site for the majority of your time? Are you using a company email? Are you using their computer? Are they essentially treating you as an employee without putting you on a W-2, right? Because there's so many times in my career where I did exactly what you're doing, and then they ended the contract with no notice because I'm just a freelancer consultant, whatever, and you're out of your gig, right? Because you spent all your time working on them, that you haven't had time to find new clients, right? And so it's a hairy situation to be in. So I would just say always be prepared for the next step, and then know when you can actually file for unemployment.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna do some math. Everyone got their notes? Notes, pen and paper. All right, so this is your equation. I want you guys to answer these 4 questions. What is your monthly revenue goal? How much are you charging for your average client? What's your hourly rate? And then what's your average number of hours per week? You can write this down too. You can see the gist of this. Do a little bit of math. Are we here until 8 or 9? 8. Okay. All right. All right. So this means, if your revenue goal is say $5,000 a month, which sounds great if that's cash, but if you're a freelancer, you have to subtract 45% of that. So now you're really only paying yourself $2,500. And then your hourly rate, $50 an hour, which means you're working 25 hours a week, like billable hours. And then your revenue goal, 50. So again, $5,000 a month divided by your client average. Say, stuck in the project side of things, my client average $500. This means that you have to onboard 10 new clients a month for this to be sustainable, for you to be able to make your revenue goal. That's a lot of conversations. And say, of all of the conversations that you have with new leads, or how many new conversations do you have every single month with new clients? And what's the percentage of what's your close rate on those? So say you have a close rate of 10%. You have to have 100 conversations. It's not, this is the project. This is what you get stuck in for the project stuff. Okay. I want you guys, and this is the whole reason why you need to charge more for your services. You're not just charging more, you're adding more value. So if your revenue goal, and you double your hourly rate, so now you're at $100 an hour, this means you're billing approximately 12 and a half work hours per week, Your revenue goal means your client average is now $2,500, which means 2 new clients per month. And say those each 2 new clients per month are now new recurring clients, right? So 2 new clients per month, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. Like, what's the maximum capacity that you can have? How many reoccurring clients can you have per month? You're only billing 12 and a half hours each week, right? If you're working at $100 an hour to meet your monthly revenue goal. You follow? So 2 new clients per month, and take them up your value ladder. Turn them into reoccurring clients. And then how can you get here? How can you add more value to the services that you provide? And how can you decrease the amount of time spent on each project? The answer to that is prioritizing your services, coming up with your packages, standardizing your processes, saving them as templates, creating your task lists, creating a standard process, right? Okay. So a couple other notes. So fear of pricing, clients comparing you to $300 websites. So my answer to that is, sorry if that's what your budget, we're just not going to be able to work together. I have some students who maybe they could help you put together a Squarespace site, but so why do I say do not discount? I'm sure you've heard this before. Do not discount your services. Why?
No, I've discounted
Yeah.
for like a family member.
Well,
But like, for your family member.
Yeah.
As it continues to for like discount on the first project.
Yeah.
Now I gotta go build more stuff. I'm like,
No. Yeah, and then you get stuck because then they also turn into source referrals for you, but they're going to refer you at your discounted rate. So that's one reason to not discount. What else? What else?
It's hard to then raise your prices.
The what?
It's hard to raise your prices.
It-
Raise your
well,
prices.
Yeah.
You already- you started
Oh,
on
so
that.
if you start them at the lower level, yeah, because you've boxed yourself in, so you can't like start charging them more because then they get sticker shock. No, don't value your don't devalue your services. By discounting, you're devaluing the service that you offer, and for all the other reasons that we just talked about. Yeah.
I do have a question about just like if you start at a rate and then like you are starting to realize you are more valuable.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you recommend that you would
Yeah.
talk to them about raising your prices?
Yeah, so I would say, well, I want everyone here to double their pricing because I know you're not charging enough. And freelancers, you only get to keep 45% of it anyway. So I want everyone to double their pricing. So my response to that would be, so this is an existing client that you're working with right now?
Yeah.
And how long have you worked with them?
Fairly shortly.
Okay.
But
Do you mind sharing what your hourly rate is? No?
Don't
Don't be afraid of money. We're all here. We're all
No,
here.
because I came here because I truly have no idea. And partly it's a friend.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm like
No,
still
that's fine.
figuring it
No,
out.
that's fine.
Okay.
So my response would be, hey, I've really enjoyed working with you. We've been working at $40 an hour. But as my business grows, I'm gaining a lot of momentum. And so because of this, I'm no longer able to work at that hourly rate anymore. So my new hourly rate is going to be $100 an hour. But because we're currently friends and working together and I appreciate our relationship, I'm going to give you a special rate, whatever your client's friend's name is. I'm going to give you a special James rate, I know who it is, of $80 an hour. Is this something that you're comfortable with? You know,
And then put the phone on mute.
and then run away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because you have to be able to sustain yourself, right? And I know sometimes it's hard, and it took me a long time to sort of like cut the fat. And I still have clients like this as you grow and continue to scale. Things always like this will come up, but we'll talk about some of those in the client role plays. So, speaking of which, okay, so these were all of your questions. So setting prices, we talked about pricing. We talked about pricing strategy a little bit with finding your blue chips. How to negotiate. So we're going to get into some client role plays right now. And then, so understanding the UX market value and how to navigate salary negotiations. So I think you covered that side of things. Is anything on here that you guys see that we haven't talked about yet? Yeah.
On the earlier slide, you have setting rounds of review.
Yeah. Yeah. So setting your numbers of reviews for each project. So for a brochure design, as an example, 2 rounds of revisions, right? So however many rounds of revisions you need in order to complete the project. So very rarely do you ever get it right the first time, and the client's always going to have more feedback. So I can get it mostly right the second time, but then usually the client's just like, oh, well, actually, can you change it to this? So I know that it usually takes around 2 rounds of edits. Website design and development, how many rounds of revisions have you done before with other projects like this, right? So it's also kind of like trial and error and trying to figure out what's right, and also setting a reasonable amount. But then you're also taking into consideration, well, how many points need to be allocated to this test, to this specific task? So how much time is in the budget in order for you to complete these reviews? Does that answer it? Did you have a question?
Kind of in the same
Yeah.
vein of like, when going through reviews and stuff,
Yeah.
because from client to client, some of these can be so different. If like maybe by review 2 or something, you're realizing that there might be a need to reevaluate completely.
Mhm.
Like, how do you propose putting that out there?
Like-
Is that your responsibility to be like, all right, I did my part, I'm gonna step away?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's okay. So you're paid for the work you've already performed. If you are seeing like red flags, take it back to when you onboard every single project, what is the goal of the project? And if they start to stray from this goal at some point, that's a great time to bring up that goal again and be like, so this is why we initially started this conversation. I see you are starting to go this other direction. Let's bring this back to why you hired me in the first place. Right? And then if they're like, okay, well, you know what, let's take this back to the very first discovery phase again and start over again. Well, you're starting a new project.
Can I chime in really fast about, you talked about when you're charging an hourly rate, just account for taking a percentage out,
Mhm.
and you're talking about taxes.
Mhm.
So I do want to quickly highlight the difference between 1099 and W-2 freelancers.
Yeah.
Because I educate candidates a lot with that. When you're on your own, no staffing agency representing yourself, you're a 1099 employee, which means you have to account for paying taxes in the future. So you need to account for, what's the percentage?
I say 45%.
45% more. So you're like, no, they have to store that away to pay that back. Going through a staffing agency, you will be a W-2 contractor, so we're already taking taxes out ahead of time for you, so your rate through us will be lower. I just want to say that because,
Yeah.
yeah.
So instead of you getting, say, $50 cash for you to like separate amongst your, or like
Taxes.
for your own taxes, you're doing it for them.
Right.
Yeah. Good one. Okay.
Wait, one question.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Can you talk a little bit about like full-time and negotiating salary for full-time job?
Ask for more.
Just how, I guess, like at what point is it okay to ask them, you're not gonna ask their budget, but like, you might go to a third round, you still don't even know what their range is, at what point can you say like, what are you thinking? Cause if it's 30K less, then I'm not even gonna, bother, can you ask?
That is, so maybe, are there any hiring managers or HR people who could answer that? Or
I mean, you shouldn't go too far, is what I would say. You don't want to be in the third round. I would say like either the initial phone screen with the HR coordinator or maybe the next step.
Is it appropriate to ask as a candidate? If this is just like a fine on my own, not through a recruiter, like, you don't wanna be pushy and say, well, what are you paying, but you also.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually it's hard because most of the time, the HR recruiter on the initial phone screen will say, like, what are you looking for in salary? Like, they're gonna ask you. If they don't, that might be where you do need to say, what are you all budgeting for this role? But they should be asking you, and that's where you go in with that number and like non-negotiable piece. But you shouldn't go too far without knowing anything.
Yeah, one thing that when I was interviewing for full-time design positions, there were a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I did encounter situations where they'd be like, great, can you show up at 9 a.m.? And then they'd essentially keep you for a work day and like you'd like do all these spec projects for them. And then at the end of the day, they're just like, thanks, we'll be in touch. And like, you just got a day's worth of free work.
Yeah, be wary of design tests too.
Yeah.
I guess,
So-
like on the topic of actually pick up, I'm just talking about it today with somebody, and when you are asked to do that,
Yeah.
where that line is of, okay, I will do this spec project, but I
Mhm.
need to be paid for it.
Yeah.
And it's so common. Like I've done that in interviews. When I was interviewing for the role I'm in now at different places, I was asked to do like a landing page, or I was asked to critique some work as a creative director. Like, what would some of my feedback be? Like that one for me, I was like, I'm gonna spend like an hour or two on this, but an actual project of writing, that's tricky territory. And like, if I were to bring somebody in, like we've done that in the past, where we'll have somebody come in for like a trial to get today,
Mhm.
and I'm adamant that we get that person.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You have to,
Yeah.
like, otherwise it's
So in the freelancers that I have brought on, I do give them like a quick 20-minute like capabilities test, which is different than free work. So I'm like essentially like open up Photoshop. This is the specs. Like, what can you create in 20 minutes? Like, AKA, can you actually use the programs? So you say you can, but can you really use them? Okay. All right. So let's break into groups. So if we could do, so if you four, well, do you want to?
I'll just flow.
Yeah, okay, you'll flow. All right. So however, I was going to say like do it by table, or you guys are kind of spread out over here. So maybe we have one group here, and then you guys will be your own group, and we're going to do some discussions. But to set the tone before we break, can someone read this with me? I will be, I'll be Matt, and then you can be the creative director. Okay, so starting with the background, who wants to go? Who can read this? Who can see it? Okay. Yeah, yeah. So start with the background, and then I'll be Matt, and you'll be the creative director.
You're in a conference room with a potential client named Matt. You're looking for a new branding and identity. This is your first conversation with them, and you were referred to them from one of your previous clients, CGM. You know their company fits within your target audience, so they could be an ideal client. Your branding and identity projects start from $10,000.
Thanks for meeting with me today. So we've worked closely with CGM in the past, and they speak very highly of you.
Amazing. I'm happy to be here. Tell me about the goals you have for your branding and identity.
Yeah, so we've recently had lots of success, but I feel it's time to just level up in every aspect. But before we do that, we want to make sure we have our branding on point. Once we get our new look, we'll start reintroducing ourselves to the world.
This sounds like an exciting time for you. What budget did you have in mind for this project?
So we're hoping to wrap this up around $5,000. Can you tell me about some of the previous clients who've gone through your branding and identity process? All right. So a couple things before you break. So this client, so you can approach us two different ways. I'm not going to get this. You guys can talk about this. So they're asking for half of what your branding and identity package is, right? So that's something to take into consideration. But you know they're a good referral. You know they're a good client. So let's break into groups. How would you reply? I'm going to play some music while we're doing this.
maybe like, I see 4 and 4 here, like these 4 around, but maybe like we could 3 or 4, however that works out, maybe 2, but that might be easier than like a single table.
Looking for a playlist that's not, oh, here we go.
So are they brainstorming what down?
Yeah, so you guys are the creative director. How do you respond to Matt? Let me see while everybody is. Oh, well, now the chat works. Hey, who's here? I couldn't figure out if there was a way for me to share my screen or not. I might have to Google this. Just chatting.
Stop over here.
So apparently I set up the live stream wrong, but next time I'll do it better. Or I can share my screen. I've done it before in the past, I just don't remember. By the way, there's a videographer here recording us tonight. Okay. All right, everybody, let's bring it back. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. All right, so we have a half an hour, and I got 4 more of these, so let's wrap this up. Okay, So this sounds like an exciting time for you. What budget did you have in mind for this project? All right, so I'm Matt, and you guys are going to respond to me as the creative director. Okay, so we're hoping to wrap this up around $5,000. Can you tell me about some of your previous clients who've gone through your branding and identity process? Go. Let's start over here. This group.
Oh. I guess I'm thrown to that.
Yeah.
Matt, it's great that CGM has referred me to
Yeah.
this type of work. But the market rate for this type of work is $10,000, and I see that you have.
Whoa. Okay, right there, you just doubled the budget. You know, that's not what we were expecting.
Oh, well, allow me to continue. Since you've been referred by CGM.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of a rate of 8,000 since you're a referral. Would you be okay with that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? Let me talk to my boss and we'll get back to you. Okay, let's pause here. We're going to come back to this. Let's go to this side of the room. So we're hoping to wrap this up around $5,000. Can you tell me about some of your previous clients? You guys.
All right. So you know CGM well, so you must see my work for them.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you feel about my work for them.
I mean, we thought it was amazing. I mean, there's a reason why I brought you into my office here today and we're sitting in this conference room.
And I think that there's something we can work on for this project for sure. So I wanted to know what kind of thing you're looking for this project.
So we want to look good. We want to differentiate ourselves from the clients and be new leaders in the industry.
So we can work on some more specific. Maybe we can divide this project into stages. I have an itemized price, so maybe I can send you over my proposal and then we can discuss our price later on.
Sure. Okay, that's great. All right, so let's leave this here. You guys.
So Matt, with $5,000 generally, if you're looking at a branding and identity process, are you considering, what all does that mean to you? What are you looking to actually receive from that?
Good question. Okay, so let's talk about some of the deliverables of the project that we'd be looking for that no one has asked around for. So we are going to be displaying this logo on our website. We're going to be displaying this on our, say it's a storefront. We have these amazing t-shirts, not to mention that we have a workforce of a couple hundred people. So it's imperative that we get it right the first time.
So you would say you're primarily looking for just a logo, or are you looking for a branding and identity overhaul, which would consist of a little bit more extensive research and rounds to develop a more cohesive look for your entire group?
Okay, so you kind of answered my question there, because I was going to ask, well, what's the difference between a logo and a branding and identity? So, and you kind of just answered that. So, okay, all right, so let's bring this back. Okay, so you discounted. You did not disclose the pricing, and we haven't actually gotten to the pricing yet. So actually, yeah, let's continue.
So in the nature of just a logo redesign, we could start talking about maybe a $5,000 package to explore some possibilities for that. But if you're looking at a full branding and identity process, there's a little bit more involved with that, and it would have a couple more rounds of revisions and a little bit more hours for research and decisions for other parts of the identity. Something like that could end up being a separate $5,000 package.
Okay, so you're saying it'd just be split up into two different projects. Okay, all right. No, I think that's something that we could get on board with. Okay, all right, so a couple different tactics. So what did he do here? What did the creative director get the client to do? What was the negotiation strategy here? No, so the creative director right here got Matt to do what? To give to give you an anchor, a price anchor, right? So without asking and getting too much information before getting too far along in the project, he got him to give you an anchor pricing, right? By asking these specific questions. So this sounds like an exciting time for you. So what sort of budget did you have in mind? Get the anchor out of them, because that's what they're talking. And of course, this isn't set in stone. This is flexible, right? So not to say that $8,000 isn't entirely out of the project, not even to say that $10,000 is entirely out of the project, right? Or out of their budget. It's entirely possible that, sure, well, what like you explained, so you could approach it two different ways. You could explain the value of having a logo, but then also the value of having a or the full branding and identity package, and explaining the difference, because part of our responsibility as designers is to educate our clients. Educate the clients on the value of the services that you're offering. Okay, and so I do say talk about money. It can be scary, but always talk about money in the conversation, especially if you're on location in his conference room. Don't just push it back and be like, oh, sure, I'll email you later. Haha, bye. Because then you killed the conversation, right? Another thing, so how I would respond to this, I would say something along the lines of, so I see that you say your budget is around $5,000. I'm wondering, is there any flexibility in that budget? Because I can tell you, of all of the branding and identity projects that I've done in the past, I've been able to have my clients see huge success, right? So, and we always get it right the first time. So talk about the results of previous clients that you've worked on in this project. If you have it, just spit it out. Otherwise, I think that's also a sustainable approach to explain like what this will get you for your services. You're not telling them no because you are still going to engage with them, but you're also upselling them on something else. Yeah. You can customize your packages and be like, yeah, you know what, I think this is really great. Let me throw together a customized package for you. That's okay, because you have it all bullet pointed and priced out already, so what's it to you to put together a custom package or to mix and match elements from the different packages together into one big one? Yeah. All right, moving on. Yeah.
Would it be obnoxious to say, this is what I can do for 5,000?
Yeah.
This is what we could do for, beyond that, and ideate with them a little bit there about what they might, what kind of packages they want to see, and kind of set a really high anchor.
Yeah.
Because, like at 15.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Sell them the world. No, absolutely. Because they're talking to you for a reason. Because they already believe in you, and it's a warm lead. It's a referral from a client that they've known that you've worked with before, and there's so many other things that could be taken into consideration for this conversation, right? Is this guy the actual decision maker? Is he just getting numbers? Is he just bidding? Like, when you're having a conversation, engage them in conversation and see how much you can pull out of them. And if he's the decision maker, swing all the way home, right? So that's just for this project. Maybe they have a $40,000 website project that they're sitting on too. You just don't know unless you ask. Right. Okay, so and then this one. Let's do another one. All right, let's do this one. Okay, who wants to read the background? Okay.
You joined a new networking group and are excited about getting referrals. In your pitch, you mentioned that you focus on designing and developing WordPress websites and help design their site so that it converts traffic into new leads. After giving your 2-minute pitch, one of the members, Chris, comes up to you to chat.
All right, so I'll be Chris. Okay, so hi, thanks for joining our group. So I'm wondering, can you do Squarespace websites?
Thanks, I'm glad to be here. It depends what you're looking for.
Okay, so I did my own website, and I guess it's okay, but it doesn't generate a lot of leads for me. I'm not entirely sure what I can do so that it does. Is this something that you can help me with?
Well, I'm not super familiar with Squarespace. Generating leads from the website is reliant on a bunch of different factors. It's hard to say off the top of my head what I can do to help you. Would you prefer coffee next week?
So and then you meet up for coffee. Okay, all right. So thanks for buying me a coffee. Here's my website. What do you think this page should say?
I would suggest that it says.
Okay. We'll listen to one more song. Disperse. Let's chit chat. How would you respond to Chris? People are still watching. We're at WeWork, by the way. Okay. Okay, so let's bring this back. Let's bring this back. So, all right, so now we're at, thanks for buying me a coffee. Appreciate it. Here's my website. So what do you think this page should say? Let's go in the back.
If the question that's being thrown at me like this is, here's my website, what
What do you think it should say?
Okay, well, Chris, what are your goals for your website? What is it that you are not receiving from your website now?
So it's not really generating any leads.
Okay, so what does it mean to you generate leads? What are the numbers that you're seeing currently? And what are the numbers that you think?
So I'm getting like 2 email subscribers per month. I'd like to get like 5,000.
Okay, what's your target market? But what's your target market? What's your target audience?
So let's say millennials, downtown Chicago.
Okay, and have you already shown the service that you offer? I don't know. What service that you offer?
I'm a speaker coach.
All right, Chris, speaker coach, great. I would recommend, I would probably at that point say something along the lines of these goals are attainable.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe them to be attainable, and I can think of a couple of ways that you might be able to improve on your website, but I would start with like, here's a proposal of what that would look like. And it would look like some payment being exchanged before any insight.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. You know what? I actually got to run to my next meeting. So
All
thanks for
right.
the coffee.
Best of luck.
Okay. All right.
Let's
Let's go back in the back over here. Anybody in the back? Okay.
So let's, before we dive in, thank you again for meeting me. Can you remind me, you said you were trying to generate something. Tell me a little bit more about your business and what you're looking to do.
Yeah, so I'm a speaker coach downtown Chicago, and I am looking to target millennials to help them with their speaking abilities and hopefully help them become thought leaders in whatever their focus is.
Fantastic. Sounds like a great business. So what, in your perspective, what is your website not doing now that you'd like it to?
So generating leads. So I'm not.
What exactly does that mean?
So no one's subscribing. No one's giving me their info.
No one's doing it. Well, I have my portfolio here. I'd be happy to show you a couple of samples of similar work I've done.
Oh yeah, no, I checked out your website before we came.
Oh, that's nice.
It looks great. It looks great. I'm a fan of your work, you know, and I brought my computer here too, and I have my website up. So I was just wondering what do you think my website should say right now?
Right. Before we would get into that, I think maybe then why don't you show me one of your favorite projects that I've done, and I can tell you what price point that is.
Okay. All right. So don't forget about the background. What's this over here in the background? WordPress websites. And we're talking about what? So why are we continuing the conversation? Right? What's the difference between WordPress and Squarespace? Lots. So I say for clients that are they want to do a website and they're like, oh, I have a budget of like, I don't know, for example, $800. And like, you know, that's great. I'm so happy that you thought of me. But you know what? I have an amazing group of strategic partners in my network that I'd be more than happy to send you to that can work more at your price point. But right now, I'm glad and flattered that you want me to take a look at your website. I just don't think that I'm going to be able to fit in your price point for this. So just kill the conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. Finish your latte, keep it to 20 minutes, and then go. Right? But should the designer have even gone this far? You shouldn't have even scheduled the meeting with the guy. So it's very easy to get stuck in this like, oh, someone wants to meet me. Someone's interested in talking to me. Yay, I'm going to schedule a meeting. And you spend all this time and money and effort to get there. And it's a lot of work, especially when you end up with like, I don't know if you're actually hustling and networking. When I first started my company, I was doing this once a day for 30 days, if not twice a day, 2 coffee meetings a day. It's a lot. Okay, let's do one more. We have time for one more. We're going to have to keep this one quick. Ooh, okay. Who wants to read this with me? Okay.
You've been working with Mark on and off for the last few months on some small projects. He just reached out and has a new project in mind that's a bit larger but has a super quick turnaround. You accept because you use the work, but you also happen to be swamped by other client work at this time.
All right, so you're the designer, I'm Mark.
Okay. I'm excited to be working on your new project. I really appreciate you thinking of me. What's your timeline?
I was hoping to see this first draft Thursday, or next week Thursday. Does that work for you?
Well, that's pretty quick turnaround time, but I'll do my best. Next week Tuesday, I need more time and push back.
Yes, push back the due date. Okay. So I thought you said you would have this done by Thursday. This is ridiculous. I need to see something now because not only are you putting my reputation at risk, but also my clients.
Mark, I told you this is a quick turn project and I'm doing my best. I don't think that my request is unreasonable. You've seen successes from our previous projects while working together.
You know, just forget it. I could have done this by myself. Send me a refund. All right, 5 minutes. Gonna wrap this up. Let's wrap it up. All right, who wants to talk to Mark? Who wants to talk to Mark?
Can I request context from Mark? To refresh my memory, what was our agreement for the payment plan?
So there's nothing in the background about the agreement. So let's just say that he paid you up front. Is that what you're wondering?
Like in full?
Yeah, he paid you in full up front. Yeah. Do you want to kick us off?
No.
Who wants to go? Who has it? Wait, did I get all the groups? We get in the back? Okay. All right, let's start over in the front here.
No, we were, let's see, wait, let's go through this again. This was, okay, it's first draft, so don't do this.
Okay, so, I could have just done this on my own. Send me a refund.
So in our agreement that we both signed, because I'm definitely great at this. We both signed this agreement, and it says, it's like no go backs.
So The problem is, so this isn't just for me, this is also for one of my clients, and I'm supposed to be meeting with them tomorrow morning, and I have nothing to show. So
yeah, I can send you over what I have done so far.
it's not done. I don't have anything to show. I can't show them this stuff.
How are we gonna have this done on Thursday? Why didn't you on Tuesday? We're switching this around. I think we have a couple more days, so if you want it done by Thursday, I can definitely get something to a finalized point, and yeah, I can have it done by Thursday.
So no, so Tuesday evening, you realized you need to push back the date. So you pushed back the date on me. That's what this whole issue is. Yeah. So I know we initially agreed for this to be done on Thursday, and tomorrow's Thursday. Let's just say it's tomorrow. And this, I don't have anything to show for this. So I understand that yes, you were swamped, but you didn't meet the project deadlines, and I'm afraid that we can't continue this because our agreement has been terminated or been broken.
I feel like it would have to go back to whatever we agreed on in the beginning.
So we agreed to have this done on Thursday, and you're pushing back the deadline. So you just broke our agreement.
All right then.
All right, so you're giving me a refund. Okay.
We also kind of talked about if we were on this point system that maybe we could take credit for having a problem with our timeline. Maybe we all some points to.
So I don't want to work with you anymore. You can't meet your deadlines.
You sound like a jerk.
We didn't have
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
You told them it was a quick turnaround to begin with, and that you would try. You didn't say, this is 100% where I'm doing this route. You said, I'll try, in knowing.
Okay. Well, you tried and it didn't work. So send me a refund.
I can't do refunds. I'm sorry.
So what did I pay you for? An incomplete project?
You paid me to give you the first draft, which you will have.
No, I paid you for the full project. That was due tomorrow.
The full project was due.
You pushed back the deadline. Are you saying there's drafts now? Okay. Anyways. Okay. So refund, yes or no? No. Anybody over here say yes to refund?
Might do a partial refund based on the amount of work already invested in it. So
Yeah.
for example, you've got 50% of the project charging.
Okay, so that's reasonable. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? What if it's a project base? Yeah, I know. There's some details. So, but it's meant to be vague to generate conversation. So, so in general, I think there's a consensus of no refund. Mark's a jerk. Don't work with him. Good riddance, right? Difficult client, yes. But what type of client is he really, though? Do you really want to keep those connections? You know.
Yeah, but the people who may know might not be that high risk.
So, I guess so. My question to you is this project? So how? And maybe I should have included this in the background. So if this is a project, say under 100 or under for under $1,000, what would your response be? And then if this is for a project that's over $5,000, what would your response be? So I think to your point, if it is a high paying project, then yes, I would potentially offer half a refund, even though he's a jerk and probably doesn't deserve it. But then if it's a low project cost, sorry, I already spent all this on my hours. My new hourly rate is $200 an hour, so I can't refund you. Yeah.
Is there not also a bit of leeway working with this person? I
Uh-huh.
mean, maybe this is not the thought behind it. Is that Mark would just be a jerk and that's
The gist of this is he's a jerk.
Okay, because I was thinking, the experiences I've had, there's always a little bit of wiggle room for pushing back dates, and I think it's just knowing when to ask. And then at least giving a bare minimum of saying, okay, you wanted it Thursday EOD, we're gonna give it to you first thing, Friday morning, with your client be okay with this, and I'll work myself to get up there, to at least be like, I'm gonna work through the night for you.
Yeah,
I
so-
don't know if that's.
No, there's lots of things that went wrong here. It's not just Mark's fault. It's also the freelancer's fault, the designer's fault. The designer should have never taken this project, right? And so again, getting stuck in this project, right? Especially if this is a low-paying project, stuck in this project, right? And then end up killing yourself over a couple $100, you know, it's just not worth it. So cut your losses.
Like over here, we talked about questions to ask. Like
Yeah.
People have those big rush deadlines to say what got you to this point, that it is a quick turnaround. And that will tell you if they're like, well, we had 4 more designs before we hated all their stuff.
Yes.
And you're like, cool, red flag, not taking
Yes. And that's a good onboarding question in general with new clients. Have you worked with freelancers before, and what was your experience? Or designers before, and what was your experience? Okay, we are at 8:01. Yeah.
Just like a scenario I'm facing and people's thoughts. So I did a project for a company, very short, like 3 hours, and only talked to the art director who like agreed on my rate and everything. Submitted mock-up project, submitted my invoice, which she forwarded to finance, and she was like, actually, we don't pay for this.
No, you pay for that.
Well, exactly. So, like he had agreed on it.
Yeah.
I like talked to a lawyer friend who's like, technically, you could take it to small claims court, but I'm at this point of like, okay, it's like $300.
Mhm.
It's not worth it. But it was very clear that he probably has done this before and will do it again because he said, okay,
Mhm.
great, and just forwarded me to her and like
Mhm.
pawned me off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things. I'm like, I don't know, like you can't blacklist
No,
somebody,
I
but I'm like,
know.
what do you
It's just, you cut your losses.
And yeah,
Cut your losses, break away, and
how do you?
And you know what? It sucks because you get burned on those like $150 to $300 stuff. And like, it's so easy if they were to just pay you, and it's for such minuscule amount. Well, I shouldn't say minuscule amounts. Like, it's still like money's money, right? And you were expecting that. And like, but you, it's not enough to go to small claims court. So there's just, freelancing's hard. I'm sorry you're going through that. So there's actually, well, yeah. So there's actually, I think through and.co, one of the references that I made for invoices, I think they actually have built into their software where you can send a demand letter. But I don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. So you could try that.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a lawyer like friend draft up
Yeah.
like a very strongly worded letter.
And they're just like, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. No, sorry. Okay, guys, I'm gonna end the live stream. We've been. Oh, let's see if I lose the connection to the screen. We can say hi to everybody that's here. Hi. Amazing.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay.
Awesome.